We are going live. And we're live with the Black Ladies. Yes, we are. Now let me see here. Let me get everybody to go ahead and share this. So if you want to share it from YouTube with somebody, but we're live in the Holy Smokes Facebook group, so we can share it. Tell somebody to come join us.
Is that any better? Any better? Any better? Check 1, 2, check.
I think so.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Okay.
it sounds good. To those who are joining us, say hello when you come in. This is a Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality. What you're getting a taste of tonight is what it looks like when we record every episode. We generally do this with our Patreon community, but this season we decided to do a few episodes with the general public. So you're getting the whole backstage look. This is what it looks like. Big Sexy, what's wrong?
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
I kept wondering why you was asking people to share. I was like, no one can see this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is the general public. It's in the public Holy Smokes group. V. Hit the share button. Hit the share button. Isha, what's good? As I said a moment ago before we went live, I'm just here for the free coffee because the ladies are about to take over. Make sure my sound is off. Let's see. Let's see here.
And you said we're on YouTube?
Yeah, on the TFC YouTube channel.
TFC ATL, right?
Mm-hmm. So we got the YouTube going, and we're live in the Holy Smokes Facebook group.
Christian, are you going to monitor the requests for the group while we're on here?
I sure will.
Okay, cool.
Will you do it with me?
Yeah.
God bless you tonight. Just in case. Because, you know, I do kind of get going here. Let's see. Make sure we don't have anybody that has requested yet. All right. Got it. Yeah, everybody hit the share button. We about to get started with this episode in a minute. It's Black Women in African Spirituality. It's Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. So we got the crew here. Tyranny AT&T Jordan. Cody Cox, the professional, one of our producers. Kirkland Big Sexy Halls. XL Tribe. Karima the Truth, Her Grace, Reverend Dr. Tisha Dixon Williams, and that lady over there in the corner, I know her really well, like in the biblical sense. Pamela the therapist. Yes, in the biblical sense. It's been one of the greatest joys of my life. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Christian getting all his talking in now because he know we ain't gonna let him get a word in when the show start. Like, let me get it all out.
Listen, once I do the introduction tonight, like I might not be able to say anything. I'm gonna have to be like, hey y'all, we gotta stop the recording. Like, sorry. I'm the timekeeper tonight. What's up, Ariana? She said, everybody get your notebooks and pens and something to pick your mouth up off the floor. I love it. Sorry. I'm the timekeeper tonight. All right. So let's do some ground rules, and then we're gonna go ahead and get started with this episode and talk about Black women in African spirituality. So again, to everybody this is how we record our episodes when for Holy Smoke Cigars and Spirituality. If you're not familiar with the podcast, go to your favorite podcast platform and search Holy Smokes Cigars and Spirituality. We got 50 plus episodes that are available for your consumption. If you're one of those people who sees this coming across your feed and you're like, how they gonna be smoking cigars? We did an episode about that, season 1. We're not going to try to justify why we smoke cigars here because we already created a show that explains everything. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about why we smoke cigars, go listen to that episode or go to the Faith Community's YouTube page and you can watch the episode. Praise the Lord. Jesus is the name of the Lord. Okay. So for tonight, here's what we got. Black women and African spirituality. The one rule tonight, Pamela's going to do that for us. And then for introduction questions, for those who are in the virtual audience, you can also respond to this introduction question because we'll put your responses on the screen. And sometimes when you put commentary, it may shift the conversation in a different direction. So ask questions that show your desire to gain insight. That's my challenge to whoever is watching. Ask questions based on your desire to learn and gain insight. Don't ask questions because you want to argue your point, because you will be ignored in the most thorough way possible. Praise the Lord, everybody. I can't get no help. I'm preaching better than y'all letting on. Ain't nobody said amen the whole night. That's all right.
Amen. Preach, preacher.
You know, hey, I was raised in the black church. Okay. I need somebody to talk to me. Tish, you know what I'm saying. All right. Inner housekeeping. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. Who said that? I bet you that was Grayson or somebody. Who said, "Why don't?"
It's very much Grayson.
Of course, it's Grayson. I couldn't even see it. I was like, I bet you that's Grayson. All right. So Pamela's giving us the one rule. So today, as the introduction question, tell us what you're smoking and/or drinking. I know the ladies tonight aren't smoking cigars, so if you're smoking some type of incense or sage, go ahead and tell us what that is. And then tell us, as a child, what was taught and caught as it relates to African spirituality. What was taught and caught as it relates to African spirituality. I got the cigar tip today, courtesy of my man, Tevin Acklin. And then when we get into the main discussion, here's what we're going to talk about. What draws you to African spirituality personally? And then how and why do you maintain your connection to the Christian faith while engaging or practicing African spirituality? And then why do you think Black women are at the forefront of this renewed embrace of African spirituality is what we want to explore tonight. The episode that we post to the podcast platforms lasts for an hour. Of course, we never get to all these questions in that allotted time. So we'll continue with the after party like we always do. It's the pre-show, Myron. It's the pre-show. We'll continue with the after party as we always do. For those of you who are here who aren't a part of our Patreon community, you can be a part of all of these recordings plus some other stuff by joining us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Not a whole lot of money. And you can help support the Holy Smokes movement. If you're a part of our Holy Smokes group on Facebook, thank you so much for being a part of that. Take the next step. Join us over on Patreon. We have a good time every time we get together. So let's see. Yeah, there we go. Patreon.com/TFCATL. Live recording, cigar, apparel. The Holy Smokes Mobile is on the way. I'm so excited. Everybody who is a Patreon member gets discounts on the Holy Smokes Mobile. So I'm going to tell you like this. When we release the Holy Smokes Mobile, if you reserve it one time, you've paid for an entire year of your Patreon membership. That's just how little it costs to be a part of Patreon. So support the work that we're doing if this is meaningful to you and it helps you. Ladies, do you have any questions before we get started? Because I know I'm about to have to be quiet. Y'all, this is like the quiet before the storm. I like how y'all done got quiet since we went live. We was backstage and I couldn't say anything. Okay. Y'all sure y'all want to say nothing? All right. Well, then let's go. The ladies are keeping their peace till we start. Producers, we good? We ready? All right. Let me get everyone to mute yourselves. Everyone on screen, go ahead and mute yourselves. When you're not speaking, please mute yourself. And when you speak, go ahead and unmute yourself. That helps to keep the background noise down on the official recording. So we're going to count down here when I get to 12 minutes on my screen. So that means we'll stop the official recording at 1 hour and 9 minutes, and then we'll go on to the after party. Bet. Let's see. Got 20 more seconds, and we're going to get started. Mm-mm. 10 seconds. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. I've been waiting on this one all season. I got some of my favorite people on the planet right here with me. I'm Christian, the host and the heretic. I'm glad you're here. A shout out to everybody who is in the live virtual audience today. We normally record live for our Patreon community, but today we're recording for the general public. So thank you to everybody who is here with us. Today we're talking about Black women and African spirituality. Let me tell you right now, you're in for a treat. We have a couple of our recurring cast members, Karima the Truth and Tyranny AT&T. Jordan is with us. And then we have a couple of special guests. One is Her Grace, Tisha Dixon Williams. And then we have my wife, Pamela, the therapist, is with us. And listen, y'all, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. That's all I'm going to say. So what I want to do, because I want to get out of the ladies' way as quickly as I possibly can, is let's go ahead and get this one rule done now, and then we'll move forward. For the one rule today, Pam, the therapist, is going to bless us. Pam, go ahead and give us our one rule, please.
That's so funny. You never call me Pam. Okay.
I know, it just seemed to kind of flow right there. I don't know what that was about.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
let's run with it.
Let's run with it. We have one rule here at Holy Smokes, and that one rule is that we respect each other's lived experiences. And
Say it again.
One rule.
Yeah.
Say it
We
again.
respect each other's lived experiences.
One more time for the sisters in the back.
One more time for the sisters in the back. We at Holy Smokes respect each other's lived experiences. And that means that if you have a doctrine or a theology or a theory that you think goes above what someone has lived, we ask that you learn from someone's lived experience instead of arguing your theory or your doctrine or your theology. And we base that off of the greatest commandment and the greatest commandment theology, which says your love for God is displayed through how you love your neighbor, which is an extension of how you love yourself. Therefore, you can't fully love God if you don't love your neighbor, and you can't fully love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. Matthew 22, 34 through 40.
Thank you so much. Can y'all give us some love, please? Give us some love in the comments. If you're listening to this later, you can't give her love in the comments. For all the people who are here live, give her some love in the comments. That's my baby right there. And she's not just here because she looks good. She's here because she's brilliant. Huh? She's brilliant, if you didn't know that. Come on here. All right. Introductions. Let's move forward. Tonight, for introductions, tell us, what are you smoking and what are you drinking, if anything? And then tell us this. As a child, what was taught and or caught as it relates to African spirituality? Because many things were taught as children, and then some things were not taught directly. We just catch it along the way. So I'll start and get out of y'all's way. Again, I'm Christian. I'm the host. I'm the heretic. Tonight, I am smoking a Fat Bottom Betty in honor of the ladies who are here with us. So Fat Bottom Betty is my girlfriend. Pamela's my wife, but Betty's my girlfriend. And she treats me really well, and I'm grateful for her. And then what I'm drinking tonight really doesn't matter because I'm drinking it out of my new mug. Somebody got me a gift, and it says, "My ancestors walked so I could run." And it's got this dope animated picture of me on it. I'm just in love with this. But real talk, it's a old fashioned with Gentleman Jack. And the reason I'm drinking Gentleman Jack tonight is because African spirituality has ancestor veneration woven all throughout it. And Gentleman Jack was my dad's favorite bourbon. So that's what I'm having, or should I say whiskey. All right. What was caught or taught? I wasn't taught anything about African spirituality, but I caught that it was spooky and demonic, and it was witchcraft. And I didn't get this from my parents. I got this from media. And I got it in some ways from different church settings. And I thought about that because my parents never taught me that. But they didn't teach me a counter narrative either. They never told me, don't believe what you hear about African spirituality. They just didn't refer to it at all. So I had to go through an evolution in my acceptance and embrace of African spirituality personally, which is important tonight because everybody who is here on this show is in some way connected to the Christian faith tradition. So this is not a moving away from the tenets of our faith as people who claim to follow the way of Jesus, but it is actually an embrace of all of who we are. So I'm gonna go ahead, kick it over to Tierney, AT&T, all the things. Tierney, what are you smoking and or drinking, if anything, and what was caught or taught for you about African spirituality?
Hello, friends. Like you said, I am Tierney, AT&T, all the things, because that's what I be doing. So I am drinking a margarita because tequila is my drink of choice always and forever. And so I'm not smoking a cigar, but I am smoking incense. And so I'm smoking the Money Matrix incense over there in the corner. And since it's African spirituality, I mean, why not? And what was I taught or caught about African spirituality growing up? I think Christians stole all my answers. So basically, I was just taught that it was witchcraft, and that if you get caught up with any of those people, if you get invited to like a prayer circle or something, and you realize they're doing witchcraft, run far, far away. And so that's the thing that was caught. My parents didn't explicitly teach that to me, but listening to other people talk about it in church, outside of church, that's the message that I received. So yeah.
Thanks, T. I appreciate that. We got to shout out Blakey Cubano, Blake Blackman, who's one of our patrons. He's with us on YouTube. He said the one lady that was a mega church pastor said, if God didn't save me, I would be in Africa hugging a tree somewhere. Ooh, that terrible theology right there. This notion that when we were in Africa, we had nothing going for us. It's some of the worst white supremacist theology you'd have never heard in your life. But that's all right. We're going to keep going. Pamela, go ahead and introduce yourself. What are you smoking and or drinking? And what was caught and taught for you about African spirituality?
You would read that right before I introduce myself. Yes, that's what's wrong with us. We're extremely misinformed. I am Pamela Merritt. I am your resident therapist, and I am your resident hood healer, and I am your resident empath. Yeah, all of that. And I, like my good sis Tierney, am having a margarita because tequila is my girlfriend and she treats me really well. So I'm having a margarita and I am also smoking incense. It's like coming across my face. I don't know if anybody can see that smoke, but I'm burning a flower bomb incense, and then there's another one. I can't remember what the name of it was. Name of it is. It's something blossom. It's purple. So yeah, that's what I got. Not smoking anything but my incense and drinking tequila.
And what were you taught and or caught about African spirituality?
Yes. So for me, I wasn't taught anything directly. But what I caught was the same thing that every other black kid in church caught was that I learned it from my church that it was spooky, that it was demonic, that it would take over you, that it would have you making all kinds of bad decisions. My parents didn't really teach me anything in the opposite. My dad was more so like, you have to be careful because just because it's not what we do doesn't mean it's not real. So that was something that he said to me directly. It wasn't like don't ever, but it was like, you have to be careful because everything has spirits.
Thank you, ma'am. That's good. That's good. All right. Let's keep it going. Let's go to Karima the Truth. Tell us, what are you smoking and or drinking, and what was caught or taught to you about African spirituality growing up?
Hey, y'all. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you find yourself listening to this. My name is Karima Akila, and I love being with these amazing, beautiful, and smart people. Tonight, I am sipping on some reposado with a little bit of honey in there. Girl, yes. It was a salted rim, but if you see me licking the back of my hand, that's because there's some salt on the back of that bitch, and I'm just taking it back. We're going to talk about honoring the ancestors. That's what my people did, but all right. What was caught and taught regarding African spiritualism was something that the poet Phyllis Wheatley, I believe was her name, quoted, and that the theme was, thank God for Jesus and thank God for these European missionaries that came and saved us from this savage worship and spirituality that we practice. And if it were not for the European Christian missionaries, like Blake said, yeah, we would all be hugging a tree or shaking some bones or putting ashes on our face or something. So thank God for Jesus. And so while that was caught, I believe that my parents, especially my father, did do a good job of trying to balance that out a little bit, but not too much. Like we would practice Kwanzaa. So, Kwanzaa is more cultural, not spiritual, but it gave a little element in there. But yeah, that's what I was taught.
Thank you so much. Karima the Truth is her normal self. If you were in any way taken aback by anything she just said, just get ready, because I don't know if we want to say it gets worse or better from here. I guess it depends on your perspective. I think it gets better. Some of y'all might think it gets worse.
It definitely gets better.
But we gonna see. Listen, I'm excited because one of my special friends is here. She's brilliant. I just love her so much. I admire her and I appreciate her whole ministry. Around these parts at Holy Smokes, we call her Grace. She is Reverend Tisha Dixon Williams, pastor of First Baptist Church of Bridgehampton in Hampton, New York. Tish, tell us, please, what are you smoking and or drinking, and what were you taught or caught about African spirituality?
First of all, I am just thrilled to be in such amazing company. I've been excited and just anticipating this day for so long. So I am not smoking, but I am burning. I am burning a beautiful sage blend of white sage, rose petals, and lavender. today, and like you, Pat, it's wafting across, and so I'm excited about the energy it's giving me right now. And I am actually drinking. I made a special iced tea brew just for tonight. Tangawizi tea. Tangawizi is ginger in Swahili, so it's a Kenyan ginger tea with a twist of mango in honor of Oshun. And so that is what I am drinking tonight. And so, what I was taught, so I was not taught anything in church about African spirituality. It wasn't brought up, it wasn't talked about at all. However, I am a direct descendant of Sapelo Island, Georgia, which is a Gullah island off the coast of Georgia. And as a descendant of Sapelo, there are certain African practices, obviously, that are certainly prevalent in the community, which is awesome. And so I was taught that by my mom. She always did a really great job. I was born in Brooklyn. My dad was born on Sapelo, and my mom would always tell me I was a city mouse and a country mouse, so that I would always honor both parts of my life and my upbringing. And so I was taught that Sapelo was a sacred place. It was a beautiful place, and it was home just as much as Brooklyn was home. So that's what I was taught. What I caught in my time in Sapelo was the power of community, more specifically the community of women. And as a result of that, the theology that I have developed over time is that God is in the gathering of women. That is what I was taught, and that is what I caught. When women gather, God is there. There's no way.
Yes. Yes. God is, because I know I feel God in this place. You can't tell me. I know I feel God. Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for those introductions. This is already good, and I can't wait to go a little bit further. But before we go any further, this is Holy Smokes, Cigars and Spirituality, right? So we got to give you a little cigar tip. And today, since I probably won't be able to say anything the rest of the show, I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all this cigar tip. Welcome to the Heretics Humidor. Give me my music, please. What's up, people? Welcome to the Heretics Humidor. I got a quick cigar tip for you, courtesy of my man Tevin Ackland, who is on course to be our personal cigar sommelier here at Holy Smokes. And Tevin told me to tell you that oftentimes people's biggest pushback against cigars when it comes to not being able to really get into it is the taste. Different cigars have different tastes, which is why you have to try different cigars out to figure out which one suits your palate. But regardless of the cigar that you smoke, sometimes the taste is impacted by how you light it. Tobacco is very easy to light, but one of the big mistakes that many of us make, and I've been guilty of this as well, is putting the flame right up on the butt of the cigar. That flame is strong right there. You don't need to put it up. I'm lighting the cigar from further away. You just need to get enough of the flame on the end of the cigar to light it slowly. Cigar smoking is a relaxing, meditative activity, or it's a social activity. You take your time. Many people understand that, but then we rush through the lighting of the cigar. The lighting of the cigar requires patience as well. And when you put that flame too close to the end of the cigar, you get this charred taste, which is why sometimes you don't like the taste of cigars, not because the cigar isn't good, but because you lit it wrong. So that's your tip today. Don't rush through the lighting of your cigar. Take your time. Don't put the flame right on it. Give it time to marinate, and then you'll enjoy your smoke a whole lot more. I'm Christian Smith, the Heretic. This has been the Heretics Humidor. All right. Did I do okay, ladies? Did I? Okay. All right. Good. Good. Let's get into this discussion because we've already gotten started with learning what we are caught and taught. But I want to preface this conversation quick because we decided to do this discussion because in this particular generation, a lot is happening in the community of faith. A lot is happening. People are shifting their beliefs in many ways. We're not accepting what is handed to us, and frequently, if you are watching this episode, you saw Karima's lips when I said we're not accepting. She said bullshit. So yes, we're not accepting the same old bullshit that many of us have been taught and what we've been force fed. And many Black women have been engaging African spirituality more. And it's not just Black women, but I see Black women doing it more. And they're leading the charge in many ways in embracing African spirituality, which is a part of our ancestry. It's a part of our heritage. So we have some Black women here who, again, follow the way of Jesus. They have not rejected Christianity. One of these Black women is a pastor of a Baptist church. So we have not rejected Christianity, but we don't really practice a either or ethic here. We practice a both and that's what the ladies are here to talk about. And I just wanted to preface it that way so you understand why we're having this discussion. First thing I want to ask, and I want Her Grace to lead us off as our special guest, and then we'll go over to Pam, the therapist, to answer after this. But Tish, what draws you to African spirituality personally?
So can I start with this? I just want to start with this statement.
Go ahead.
They say our way is dead. They say our way is no more. That the Nile Valley legacy all ended thousands of years ago. But we are here and we remember. Ashe. So what draws me to African spirituality is, again, my upbringing. One of the things that I was so always inspired by and am now and have even gotten further into is this love of nature. Especially in the midst of the pandemic, I had to find new ways to connect with God. And what I realized was the new way that I was connecting with God was the way I'd always connected with God. Earth, wind, fire, air. God is in the creative God, the creatress, right? The creator, the creatress God, where I feel most connected to God. And I know that's rooted in our African heritage. That's rooted it's in our DNA. So there's something empowering about that. What also brings me to it is that just my heritage, learning more about my lineage and understanding, as you said, that these are not mutually exclusive. They're both and. I love Jesus, right? I tell people when I'm a pastor, what happened, whenever you tell people you're a pastor, right, Christian, the first thing they do is shut down. Is they don't want to talk to you. They're like, oh Lord, this Jesus freak. And I recently went on a trip. And I was introduced as a pastor. I try not to lead with that, but I was introduced as a pastor, and I could see this young lady immediately shut down. And so later on, she was like, "Oh, so you're a pastor, huh?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But let me help you out here." She's like, "You don't look like a pastor." Let me help you out here. I said, "Everybody pushes something. Everybody deals something. I happen to be a hope dealer. I'm a hope dealer, and Jesus is my connect. That's it. I love Jesus. Jesus is the way I choose to deal my hope. And everybody has something. So there's not this or that. They're both and. For me, African spirituality is a direct connection to my ancestors, those who I believe are not just, because when you call on the ancestors, right, not one grandmama come, all the grandmamas come. Everybody's coming, right? And so that's where my connection is totally rooted in my upbringing, in my Southern upbringing. This idea that I'm not alone, this idea that I don't have to do this alone. And the more you learn about your ancestors, the more you will find that you are just a new incarnation of them. I recently found out that I am the 4th generation granddaughter of a wonderful gentleman, a slave named Bilali Muhammad, who in 1857, upon his death, they found out that he was writing in Arabic a 13-page Islamic treatise. And that changed everything for me. And what I learned, I was reading his history. Not only was he still writing in Arabic, he spoke Arabic at home, English outside of the house. And on top of that, he died as a Baptist. So I was like, how could I
Wow.
not honor this Islamic part of this African part of how could I not, when that's me rolled up in a nutshell? And so I want to honor my ancestors, and I want to do that in the most genuine way by being everything they have called me to be and everything that they've shown me to be. So that's my connection to African spirituality.
Wow.
And I won't take it back.
I don't want you to. We would have a problem with our personal relationship if you did take it back. Wow. Yeah, and I'm with you. I generally do not lead with being a pastor. I just don't do it. Like, depending on what setting I'm in, if somebody asks me what I do, I tell them I sell clothes. I style people. And then throughout the course of the conversation, they'll find out that I'm a pastor after they've gotten an opportunity to know me. And then they say, "You're not like most pastors I've met before." Like, that's why I didn't tell you I was a pastor when I met you, because you would have prejudged me. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that, Tish. That's good. Let's kick it over to Pam, the therapist. Pam, what draws you to African spirituality?
You killing me with this Pam tonight. Like, for real, you killing me.
My bad.
No, it's cool. What draws me to African spirituality is finding out that I was doing it without knowing it. Finding out that my family had been doing it without knowing it. Finding out that a lot of the rituals and a lot of the practices that we do in church is rooted. Recognizing that, coming to the realization that when I get sick, my entire life, my first thought is to call home, because I come from a family of what I now know as root workers. So my grandmother was the woman in the neighborhood that when people got sick, she made things, put them in a jar, seal the jar up. They would come to the house, she would give it to them. Or they would come to the house, my grandmother would take somebody to the back room, she would tell us to stay in the front, and then they would leave. Or, something would happen with somebody and somebody would get sick, and my grandmother would go to wherever they are, and she would have her little bag with whatever was in it that was a secret. And she went to do her healing power. And I'm so with Tish on feeling like I am the reincarnation of my grandmother and my mother, because my mother had some of the same traits. She could talk to people. People came to her when they had problems. People came to her for her to pray for them. And I feel like God led me to that as a therapist. So my grandmother pulled bark off a tree and boiled it and healed people. My mother was an empath. She used her ears to heal people. And so then here I go, and then I go to school and I learn how to heal people, because now in the year of our Lord 2021, you have to have something to back that up. So I feel like I'm still doing the exact same things, but it's just like our ancestors did our African spirituality, and they wove it up inside of Christianity, and they wove it up inside of Catholicism. I feel like I have woven my education up inside of African spirituality. So I'm a baby at it. I've been doing it maybe 7-8 months, but it's so rich. And I have never in my life experienced a spirituality that feels like home like this. This feels like home. This is where I'm supposed to be. So, and I'm able to stay connected to Christianity, because when my people got here on this dirt, we hid our traditions in it. We hid our traditions in Christianity so that we could stay safe. We used our traditions to rebel, which when I call myself a Jesus follower and the follower of the greatest commandment, I'm rebelling. So it's all intertwined. Like you said, it's not an either or, it's a both and. And if you really want to be real about it, it's one and the same when you do it right.
Well, then, one and the same when you do it right. Oh. And I want to drop a note right here, because Pamela is my wife, and I pastor the faith community, and she is affectionately known as First Lady, even though she tried to reject it for all of the time that this ministry has been in existence.
And still,
Yeah, but she can't fight it. Everybody calls her First Lady. So I just want to make it clear, because some people think, and one day Pamela and I are going to do something on relationships, because y'all getting a whole lot of BS out here about relationships. Some people think in order for a relationship to work, you got to practice all the same rituals spiritually. Like you got to go to the same church. You got to believe all the same stuff. Listen, y'all, I don't do a lot of like African spirituality rituals. I'm not hosting this conversation to make room for myself. Pamela does her thing, and I honor and affirm her right to do what she does. And she doesn't try to force me to come to the altar and pray to the ancestors. Because personally, I talk to the one ancestor I connect with the most is my dad. And I talk to him all the time. And I don't personally go sit at an altar. I just talk to him randomly. So I think it's important that we understand that if somebody has a spiritual practice that doesn't necessarily align with your exact practice, that doesn't mean y'all can't have a healthy and fruitful relationship. Stop telling that lie in your churches. Please stop telling that lie. Or for those of you who are here, don't believe that lie. Don't believe it at all. Let's keep going. Tyranny, AT&T, Jordan, tell me what you got. What you got? What draws you to African spirituality?
Yeah. So I think my initial draw to African spirituality was out of rebellion. So I was in seminary, I was learning all these things, embracing like what womanism was and how I felt like that really felt like home for me. And then as I was exploring more about womanism, I was dabbling into African spirituality, and I was like, wait, the people said we couldn't do this, but this sounds a lot like stuff we already been doing. They just changed the way they worded it to make it sound like something else. And then I felt like I was lied to, and like people was trying to put a wool over my eyes. And so out of a fact that like I just felt like people were trying to deceive me, it made me rebel into a place where I really wanted to get to know more about it. It was like, no, I want to understand this. I want to know this, because I feel like y'all try to keep something from me that I should definitely have access to. And so that's where my initial interest was sparked. And then I think it was once my grandparents got sick, and then over the last year, losing both of them really just made me look at things a lot differently. And some of the traditional Christian tropes that we get when people are, going through life transition and turning and going through the process of becoming ancestors, like the language that they were using it wasn't helpful for me. It wasn't comforting me. And the language that we use about transitions as it relates to African traditional religions and African spirituality felt more like home. It gave me more of like a peace, more of a ease as I was dealing with the loss of my grandparents. And so all of those things happening at the same time and being in conversation with one another, I think is what really let me know that I was moving in the right direction. Because like I said, the first part just came out of being rebellious. I was like, nah, y'all done lied to me and I don't like that. And then after losing my grandparents, and it started to feel more like something that was truly a part of who I am. And just studying eco-womanism and how everything that African traditional religions, crystals, everything that's in the earth, the water, fire, earth, air, like all of that stuff was just coming together at the same time. And it just really started to feel like home and make sense. And so that's how I got here to be able to weave them together in this way that makes sense for me.
Yeah, I'm hearing this recurring theme of home and rebellion. I'm hearing home and rebellion a lot. That's good, and we're going to continue to play up on that. But we got to get some truth real quick. Karima, like, come on now, talk to us. What draws you?
It's about damn time. That's what draws me. It's about damn time. I'm like Tyranny. I'm like, y'all lied. Y'all lied. And I feel like I'm angry because, on one hand, Christianity can have all of its rituals and we can drink the blood of Christ and eat the body and water baptism and all of their symbolisms. But then you take that same thing and put it over here. Now all of a sudden, it's demonized. So I'm mad as hell. So that's what draws me to it. Very much like what Tyranny said, I feel like somebody lied, number one. And number two, it's about damn time that I have the right to choose both. Because I don't know about y'all, and I do know about y'all, that the idea in Christianity is Jesus and nobody else. We don't need nobody. I got Jesus and I don't need nobody else. Y'all know that gospel song, right? Okay. So it's that same thinking that you, as a Christian, you can only have Christ, and you cannot entertain the ideas, the practices, the methodologies, the symbolism of anything else. And it's like, that's a lie from the pit of hell, because y'all selfish. And when I look back at the roots of how that was used to colonize lands and to enslave people, I'm like, oh, hell's no. So now I'm finally willing to allow myself the right to choose. And I choose truth. I choose authenticity. I choose what feels like home. I choose me. I choose my people. I choose the rituals, the ones that I want to practice, and the ones that I don't, I'll leave them over there. You know what I'm saying? I ain't running around here killing chickens. That's not what I'm unless it's going to be on my plate. All right.
Come on here, somebody.
Oh, yeah. So, but no, that's what draws me to it. It's about time, and it's about truth and authenticity. And it's called expansion. I very much agree with Pamela when you said that, it's all, if you do it right, it's all the same. And so to me, it is nothing but an enhanced and expansive expression of the same thing that I've been doing, the first 40 some odd years of my life. So yeah, it's just about time.
Yes, the anger is real and it's understood. Isha said she went through her angry phase in the live virtual audience, and they talking about somebody's nails in the audience. Okay, they talking about Tyranny's nails. I think Pamela and Tyranny got the same thing going here, the same basic theme. The ladies and their nails. Everybody take it in, take it in. Go ahead and show yours, Pamela. Go ahead and show yours. All right, so here's what jumps out at me, talking to this whole concept of home. Something that I've discovered, and this just came to me right now, so if it sucks, just bear with me, is that the wealthiest people among us have multiple homes. Like wealthy people, they have a home that, they primary residence, and then they go to Florida for the summer, or they go over here for the summer. And it is many times it is a reflection of their wealth. And I believe that also can apply to spirituality, that the spiritually wealthy people can have more than one home, that you can find home in the Christian faith and the tenets thereof. And you can find home in the African traditional religions, and you don't have to choose one or the other, but you can have both, because sometimes I feel good right here and sometimes I feel good right here. And as long as I ain't hurt nobody, why the hell do y'all care so much? Why do y'all care? I think is the question that we need to ask. And Pamela has her hand up.
That was well deserved. For me, I have to have the duality, because Christianity was I was in an abusive relationship with Christianity. And so it's unfair for somebody to obligate me to my abuser. I get to decide whether or not I am going to continue to involve myself with that after I create my boundaries. That's not for anybody else to decide for me. If we're going to decide how to connect to the Creator and the way you gave it to me was abusive, then I get to decide how I engage with the abuser. So I need African spirituality, because that has given me life. Because what I have been attached to for 42 years It will be 43 in November. What I have been attached to all these years has done nothing but have its knee on my neck. So nobody gets to tell me what to pick and choose from. I'm going to choose life because that's what God commanded me. When he said life more abundantly, however I make that connection, I'm more abundantly connected through my African traditional religion. So if I want to deal with Christianity with a 10-foot pole, I think I should have the right to do that based on the abuse and the trauma that I have suffered my entire existence.
I mean, that's how you felt? That's how, okay.
Girl, you better preach. You better say it. Go on and say it.
I'm gonna let y'all go with that because y'all go ahead because she said a lot. Tish, you want to say something?
No, Pamela is just amazing. She's absolutely right. And one of the reasons that I love African spirituality so much, I will say I have not been oppressed. Well, I have not been abused by Christianity, but there are traditions I have been oppressed by. I am not one for tradition. I am one for ritual. And there is a difference. Tradition, if you look at the etymology of the word or the meaning of the word at the root of the, don't be giving me any jars or nothing. From the root, the original meaning of the word, right? Where it comes from, where it stems from. Because I saw your face, Christian.
You almost got it.
You almost got it. I'm learning.
Big Sexy is backstage and he's ready.
Yes, I know. It's what's been passed down to us, what's been handed to us. And unfortunately, a lot of the traditions that have been handed down to us make no sense. You have given me something that does not make sense to me, but rather oppresses me. But when we engage in ritual, and I love, you had a meme up not too long ago, Pam, that says ritual is in the word spiritual. It's in there. And so when we look at ritual engages spirit. And so I'm not having to be oppressed by what you hand to me. I get to invite. That makes all the difference in the world. And we need to move away from traditions that are yokes around people's necks and engage in it. I'm from tradition and engage in ritual. Ritual says I get to celebrate this, mourn this, grieve this, participate with this, in any way that feels good to me, as long as I'm not harming myself or anybody else. For example, this tradition of we bury people, we have a homegoing service, and then we go downstairs and eat the very food that just killed the person we buried. Tradition. Ritual says if I have an opportunity to participate in how I go, I'm going to do that. And it won't be just macaroni and cheese and ham. Now, let me be clear. Love ham and macaroni and cheese. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying it has to be more than that. We spend so much of our time in church as leaders, as Christian leaders. We preach. We're going home to meet the Lord. And then we have no real ritual around going home and meeting the Lord. Isn't this not the pinnacle of our faith? It's not the thing we lived our whole lives for, to get to meet Jesus. And yet we have no say and no framing around how we get to do that. I don't want to spoiler alert this for anybody, but that was my favorite part of coming to America too. When James Earl Jones was like, okay, I'm going to go now. I was like, oh, to have the privilege to be able to go out like that, being celebrated and everybody being able to say goodbye and say and me choosing, you know what, Lord, I'm ready. Peace, y'all. Ritual as opposed to tradition. Tradition is killing us. Tradition is oppressing us. And let me just say this. That was one of the other reasons I went natural with my hair. I didn't go for any fight the power movement. I wasn't trying to make a major bold statement. You know why I went natural? Because I was tired of being oppressed by my hair. I was tired of having to spend 6 hours in a beauty salon to process something that God gave me that was already amazing. And when these kinks and curls started springing out, and I was like, hold up. I had not seen that since I was 13 years old. And I decided in that moment that this was oppressive and I was no longer going to be a slave to my hair because a westernized culture told me I had to be. Because the coils and the kicks that God gave me are phenomenal. And that's what I'm talking about. Ritual over tradition.
Ritual over tradition. Jeez. But still, come on, like help me out. T, Karima, y'all got anything y'all that's just burning that you just want to say?
Karima got something to say.
Ritual over tradition, huh? That's what you're gonna start with right there, Your Grace. Right there. You gonna bring you gonna bring us to that point. So
Girl, I'm on the panel with you. I can't be caught in these streets slipping.
listen, I had to do my research, you understand, to sit my ass up on this panel. But ritual over tradition. So, okay, when we talk about, I want to take it to divination. And when we talk about ritual over tradition, right? And it's odd to me that the church will say that, this is the one way, and there is no other way. But then ain't there like a whole bunch of books in the front of this, a whole bunch of little books in the front of this big book where it was nothing but divination that we practiced like all the time, the E5, casting lots and such, right? Okay, but I digress. So then, we talk about, going to get a reading. So I sat with a young lady a couple of years ago. And so today in preparation for this gathering, I listened again to that reading that I received. She was from now I might say this wrong, the Gara tribe of West Africa. And it was the reading that had the coins and the shells and all these other things. And I had to, smooth it around in a circle for a period of time and whatnot. And they practice also the idea of elements. And I am of the mineral people. So when I listened to that again, I was blown away at just how precise that reading was, how on point. Now that was 3 years ago. And the very thing that spirit, because like Pamela say, it's all the same if you do it right. And so the very thing that spirit told her is the very thing that I'm executing right now. And so how is it that when we talk about, ritual versus tradition, traditionally in the church, if you want to hear a word, then, you got to go to church and hear your pastor. Maybe if somebody with the anointing happens to come on by and speak a word into your life, that is the only right way that it can come to you. But I'm here to tell you that sister sat across from me in that table. And she spoke a word into my life and broke up some shit that was in the bowels of my being. I had to heal a relationship with my ancestors. I was never going to get that from the church. So when we talk about the expansion of what these traditions are, that's where I find liberty. And if we really understand the true meaning and definition of who Christ is, when we say that there's liberty in Christ, then like Pam say, if you do it right, then there really is.
This is so rich. This is so rich. And I have to say this real quick because just a reminder, like, I can't do all of this stuff that they talking about. And I wish more pastors would acknowledge we can't do every damn thing. We can't. There are some aspects of spirituality we got to allow people to go and experience elsewhere, because we're holding people hostage to our way of doing things when they could really be set free if we just give permission. Because a lot of people are held hostage by our lack of permission. I've discovered that. I've discovered that in my ministry. Like not because I'm so special, but the office that I hold as pastor. Some people take what I say to heart simply because of my office. So to pastors out there, just give people permission. Like, yo, God still loves you. As a matter of fact, if you go get that reading may very well be God's expression of love for you. I can't do that. I'm not going to sit across the table and read a tarot card. That's not what I do. Now, you give me a text, I'm going to preach the hell out of it. Okay? But but I think it's beautiful and it's rich to be able to have this conversation. T, of everything that's been said, I know you got something coming up for you.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking about right now, as Kareem was talking about divination, and then in the chat we're talking about dreamers and seers and all these things. And one of the things that came up for me as we're thinking about ancestors and ancestor veneration is the fact that Jesus was an ancestor. And so if we spend all of our time in Christianity following the way of an ancestor who is Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, then how is it that we cannot practice these African traditional religions and this African spirituality? And acknowledging ancestor veneration takes work, right? So Karima said she had to heal. I didn't say no big word. What did I say?
I don't even know. We're gonna have to get word from the producers about that.
What did I do?
Veneration.
Christian said that earlier. That's not my word.
So I'll take that. I owe Kirkland a $1 for veneration. Tell the people what veneration means, T.
So ancestor veneration is looking back at your lineage of your ancestor and seeing what you can learn from them, calling them to come on your behalf when you're going through things, when you're praying. And so building that relationship and that connection you have with them on the other side. So venerating them. But yeah, what I was saying is sometimes you have to heal that relationship and you have to know which ancestors you're calling on, right? So if your great granddaddy was sexist when he was here, if he ain't worked on his stuff from then to now, he's still sexist. So calling on him to advocate on your behalf as a Black woman ain't gonna do you much good, right? So you have to be aware of what everything means and not just start throwing stuff around and being like, oh, well, I'm just gonna call on the ancestors and they gonna come and fight my battles. Like, no, don't be ignorant. Like, don't just start saying out things that other people are telling you. If you really are interested in it and doing the work, like learn, like spend the time to invest in learning these things. Like the number of ancestors that you have, like looking out for you and that have your back, like even if you go back 7 generations, if you do 2 times 2 to 4 times, like it's exponential, the number of people that are out there and that are on your side, that are rooting for you. And so I just really feel like we should give people more grace, and we should offer people more space to follow the things that feel true and feel like home to them. Because if we can follow the way of Jesus, who is an ancestor, I think ancestor veneration is something that we could be really comfortable with.
I say an amen. So real quick, Inner Housekeeping on YouTube said that pastors want tithes. They don't want to send people anywhere else. I get it, right? Church is an organization. It's a business. There's a business component to running an organization. Yeah, I totally get it. I am of the mindset that if you allow people to be who they are, they will support the work that you're doing even more, instead of trying to intimidate them into doing what you want them to do. So that's what I'll say to that. I have people who give consistently to the faith community, who I've never had to bully into giving. I never had to promise them that their bills was going to be paid next week. I never had to promise them that checks were coming in the mail. But I believed that if I provided the valuable ministry that we offer, they would understand the necessity of giving to the ministry. So on that note, you can give to the faith community on Givelify. You can go to Cash App. It's hashtag TFCATL. All right, because we still need to pay these bills. Praise the Lord. Pamela, you had your hand up. Yes, support the work. Pamela, you had your hand up. Please go ahead.
It looked like Tish was about to say something.
Both of y'all were.
Please let her grace go first, please.
She done pass it on to you, so you go and then we'll hand it over to Tish. And by the way, we only have, let me see, 5 more minutes for this episode. So you take
what?
I'm telling you. So you take a couple, Tish take a couple, then we go on to the after party.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason why somebody said I'm about to take off running, you're absolutely right. You know why I'm about to take off running? Because several things have been said after me. First of all, I am so with Karima on telling the truth. Yes, ma'am. I'm still working through anger. Okay. Your level of anger and your level of having to process and your level of coming out of working through your trauma depends on your level of abuse. Okay. So I'm still working on being angry with the church for lying to me. Okay. That's first off. Second off is Tish talking about this ritual over tradition. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you what I heard when you said that. This is what I heard myself say to me in my head. Rituals make room for me. Tradition does not make room for me. And tradition most of the time does not honor me. But when there is ritual involved, it allows me to get involved. Okay? Ritual is intentional. Tradition you can do in your sleep. Tradition I can do with my eyes closed. Ritual is intentional. Ritual is what I get involved in. And for what T was saying, oh my God, listen, I'm not getting in front of my altar. I just bought a little pillow thing so that I could kneel because that's how much I reverence my ancestors. Let me tell you something. I'm not calling on no child molesters. I'm not calling on people who beat women. I'm not calling on people who didn't make room and listen to children. I'm not calling on any of those people. When I get in front of my altar and this is why my altar is so important to me. You can see a little piece of it behind Christian. It's important to me because my ancestors know me. They know me. They birthed me. They breathed life into me. They spent time with me. They prayed for me and with me. So if I'm going to go to anybody and be my whole self and have permission to be my whole self, it's going to be kneeling in front of my ancestors. It's going to be asking my ancestors to protect me, to guide me, to give me wisdom, to show me things, to speak to me. Listen, to show up one at a time, because right now they're chattering. They chattering on top of each other. So I need them to show up one at a time. But I have to do that ritual because ritual makes room for me. A lot of times we construct tradition off of sexism, misogynoir, whatever it is. And it doesn't make room for me. Or it makes room for this much of me. If I can cook, if I can rock a baby to sleep, if I can bring water to the pastor, that's the tradition. No. I need to be a part of something that honors my whole self. And that African spirituality, the way they honor women and the way they put women first and the way they recognize the way we birth and create, whatever that may be, I want to be a part of that. I need to be a part of that because that is welcoming me. That is inviting me. Tradition says, fit in where you get in where you fit in. Nah. So yeah, I'm inviting elevated ancestors only. I call my ancestors by their full names. I know who I'm calling. I know who I'm asking for. So yeah, that's that. I done got hot, so I'm done. Sorry.
Did she say bring water to the pastor? Did she say it? Did she say it?
Let me tell you what's
I
interesting
heard
about
it
that.
when she said it.
Let me tell you what's interesting about that. This is what's really interesting, and I hope this helps somebody. The activities that Pamela was talking about that the church has tried to limit her to, she rejected them until she opened herself up to African traditional religion and spirituality. And now she engages them with her full self. Because let me tell you something. When I met Pamela, I was the cook in the house. Pamela didn't like cooking. She made it known. I don't care. My mama and my daddy taught me how to cook. I can provide for myself. I know how to cook well. So it wasn't an issue for me that Pamela didn't like to cook. But as she started opening herself up to this mode of African spirituality, she opened up to all of herself. And I didn't even realize this until right now. Like, she opened herself up to aspects of her that she had to reject because it came from her abuser. And now, because she can get it from somebody who loves her and from ancestors who care from her and a tradition that embraces all who she is. Let me tell y'all, this girl is running around here cooking collard greens and sweet potato souffle and everything. She's in her cooking bag right now. So you can't tell me African traditional spirituality or religion is of the devil because I'm eating good. Huh? Come on here, somebody. I don't care what y'all say. Tish.
Lord have mercy. This is just extremely rich. Pamela, I just want to, I love what you said when we talk about tradition. And I think about this. What if, how would how would women feel now about their bodies and their sexuality if the tradition of putting a scarf on my lap was abolished in favor of me having a ritual about loving my body? Like, where would we be as women today? If so, I just, yeah, I'm totally with you on all of that. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to say about this as we talk about why African spirituality. The first thing I wanted people to understand is that African spirituality is not polytheistic, meaning the belief in that there's multiple gods, but rather it is monotheistic, but it has levels. It's a monotheistic one God practice. So there is the large God that we believe in, right? But then there are, so if you look at the Orishas, there are different gods for different things. Here's what I love about that. Those deities or gods or goddesses are honored. They're not worshiped. They're honored. The same way our faith will honor Mary for Mary's contribution to bringing Christ into the world, right? The same way some of y'all will honor Paul. Another conversation for another day, or even worship Paul. Another conversation for another day. But
come on, preacher.
I'm saying it to say that it is monotheistic. There is still one God, but just these other, as someone said, captains, if you will, or ambassadors of different things. And I think that's sometimes what happens in our traditional religions that intimidates people, that God is so huge, that God is so big, that God becomes impossible to comprehend. Oh, but if there is an Oshun, who all she focuses on is beauty and grace and honey and dancing, who can stop a war with her very graceful essence. Oh, I can get that. I can understand that. I can get what I need. If there's a God, if there's a deity of war, if there's a deity of strategy, if there's a mothering day, oh, I know where I can get what I need. So I'm going to put it to you this way and this way. And I've heard this explained for something else, but I think this is the best. So if you go to Hershey Park, you go to the Hershey factory and they walk you through Hershey, there's a huge vat of chocolate, right? You could not put your face in that chocolate and consume all of that. But what they do, all of the elements in that chocolate are in that huge vat. You could never consume it. And so what do? They take everything that's in that vat and put it in one little Hershey kiss. And so while I do not get all of the chocolate, I get the essence of everything that's in there. And that is what African spirituality is like. While I may not have the whole concept of God that's just too big for me to consume, you can give me an Orisha. And that'll at least give me an essence of what that whole God is about. And I know who, as just like the ancestors, I know who to call on when. And I think that is amazing. And we see that in our own faith, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? I know when I need the Holy Ghost. And I know when I need to have a little talk with Jesus, for sure. Right? And so all of these things, and the thing that we are always taught, tradition and religion, or when in Rome, do as the Romans do. When I've heard a theologian say it this way: when in Rome, do what the Romans do. And we never question it. And yet we question everything the Africans do in Africa. We ain't got no questions for thing with blind faith, but we have to question everything. I just don't understand how you can see something like Santeria, and because the priestess wears all white, that's something wrong with that. Oh, but we will shout over a freshly pressed usher, won't we? We'll get happy off a clean glove. And so I think we have to really begin to reframe. Someone will open a Bible to a scripture and say, oh, the Lord was talking to me. But if God forbid, somebody pull a tarot card. So I think we have to really do a really good job of assessing and really stop vilifying that which we don't understand.
Listen here. This has truly blessed me tonight. And listen, we're gonna continue this a little bit more in the after party. But we got to have a part two of this episode. We got to have a part two because we haven't even scratched the surface of this. So we're going to do a part two. Absolutely. But listen, next week when we come back, we're doing an episode called Is Marriage Necessary? Next week, is marriage necessary? You can only be a part of this next episode if you join us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/TFCATL so you can be a part of the live recording. If you haven't checked out the podcast on your favorite podcast platform, look it up. Holy Smokes, Cigars and Spirituality.com. All right. Check us out. We're going to do a part two of this, but we'll right now, I'm going to take a little bit of time to go a little bit further, and then we'll save the rest for part two of this episode. But for those who are listening on the podcast platforms, thank you for being here. For those who are part of the live virtual audience, stick around for at least like 10 more minutes, maybe 15, maybe 20. Who knows? We'll see what happens. It's Holy Smoke, Cigars and Spirituality. This is good. This is good. And shout out to everybody in the live virtual audience. T, Karima, I'm not even about to give you a prompt. I know you got something on your mind.
I just want to tell Pamela, your tears represent all of us. All of us who have been told, no, you can't. You're not good enough. You're a woman. And those tears are rivers of healing. And girl, listen, I'm about to build my little ancestral altar right here. This is my meditation space that we're in. I got my crystals and everything. You know what I'm saying? Got them all. Got all my good ones here. But there we go. All right, get them out. Get them out. Yeah, there it is. But your tears represent the pain and the denial for far too long. And I'm with you. I felt when you said, don't dictate to me how I am to engage with my oppressor. I'll determine that shit. And if I want to go up in there, I will. And if I don't, I won't. And I'm at the I won't stage in my healing. And it has taken me to go all the way to some other side where I can be fully healed. Because if I step up in any church, it's going to be all over my face. They're going to be like, carry her right out of here right now. She is not of the Lord. So your tears represent all of us. And thank you for shedding them.
Absolutely. Tell you what you got.
Well, I say to everything that has been said before me. Y'all, this is good. I have all the thoughts. I'm all over the place. Yes. I think something that's coming up for me is just the more I think about like living this out in relationship with one another, and the more I think about what I want to do with like my career and like my ministry and things like that, it's just really thinking about all of the people who do these things in their private time and feel like they don't have a space where they can be their whole selves in public. And like that's really just where I get stuck all the time, is because we're building our own altars, we're reading all of the books, but we don't have a community of people to be honest and vulnerable with, to do it together. Like, so it's like you scrounging the internet, you figure out what to do, but then when you start doing it, you're in isolation. And so that's just really what's been on my mind, is like, how do we do the community part of what this looks like for the people who want both, right? Who are really holding on to the Christianity, who are also holding on to the African spirituality, and just trying to figure out where they belong. That's not just on the internet. And as we were talking through all of these things, that's just like, I'm just getting all of the feels and just thinking about all of the people who resonate with our experiences and who just feel like alone and by themselves, and like nobody understands them. So that's where I'm at. That's what I got.
That's powerful. The power of community. The power of community is everything. Who listen, Frida, so glad you have delved into the cigar world and that you're having one now. I hope you're enjoying it. Um, but we're going to do a part 2 of this. Next time we do this though, we're doing it for the Patreon community. So if you want to see it live, join us on Patreon, because I know these ladies have so much more to say, but I know we can't get into it without going for another hour and a half. So when we come back, we're going to talk about why Black women are leading the charge in this. We're going to talk about the similarities and how African spirituality is woven into the Black Christian tradition. We're going to talk about crystals. We're going to talk about sage. We're going to talk about all of that stuff the next time we come back. This was the introduction, tarot cards. This was the introduction to Black women in African spirituality. There is so much more to come. Just join us on patreon.com/TFCATL, because these ladies right here are coming back. I guarantee you. Thank y'all for joining us for this episode tonight. I hope you were blessed by it. I hope you learned something. I hope you were expanded. And my prayer is that as a result of tonight, that you will open yourself to seeing God as bigger than you've ever seen God before. That you will see God in a way that you've never seen God, because you've been limited in your view of God. Your faith tradition showed you one aspect of God and told you that was all there was. And I'm here to tell you, God is so much bigger than that. It doesn't mean you have to abandon your faith tradition. It doesn't mean you have to leave your church. It doesn't mean you have to throw away the Bible. You will actually find that so much of what we're talking about is already in the Bible, and we'll talk about that the next time we come together. But my prayer is that you will continue to expand your view of who God is and who God can be for you. And Black women are leading the charge, and I love y'all. I'm just happy to be here and happy to be a part of this conversation. Thank you to everybody who participated tonight, who shared your comments in the chat. Next Wednesday, we coming back. We're doing Is Marriage Necessary? You don't want to miss it. We're going to keep this thing going. I love y'all so much. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you next time.